Come closer. I want to tell you about the moment everything changed. Not just for one man, though it began that way, with calloused hands and tired eyes, and the endless bleating of sheep in a place where God was not supposed to dwell. No, this is the story of how defiance was born. How a people discovered that chains, even golden ones, were still chains. Let me take you there, to a thorn bush burning in the Sinai wilderness, its flames licking the desert air without consuming a single leaf. The year is something near 1250 before the Common Era, though time moves differently in the desert, measured not in days, but in distances between water. A shepherd named Moses, murderer, exile, keeper of another man's flocks, stops walking. The bush crackles. It burns but does not burn. And from within the impossible fire comes a voice that will shatter empires. Take off your sandals, the ground where you stand is holy. What happens when the invisible makes itself known? When the God who has no name, no form, no temple carved by human hands, chooses to speak? What happens when this voice demands not worship, but justice, not sacrifice, but freedom? This is the question that will haunt pharaohs and forge nations. It begins here, with bare feet on burning ground, and it will end with the birth of something the world has never seen, a people bound not by blood or soil, but by law. By the radical idea that there is only one God, and that God demands justice. Moses is not a prophet yet. He is 80 years old, his beard gone white, his voice uncertain. 40 years ago, he killed an Egyptian taskmaster in rage and fled into this same wilderness, not a hero's exile, but a coward's flight. For 4 decades he has tended sheep that belonged to his father-in-law, a priest of foreign gods. His Hebrew has grown rusty. His courage, rustier still. In Egypt, Pharaoh Ramesses II builds monuments to his own divinity, while Hebrew slaves press mud into bricks under the desert sun. They have been there for generations now, so long that some barely remember the stories of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They know only the sting of the whip and the weight of stone. Some even whisper that perhaps the Egyptian gods are stronger. Perhaps their ancestors were fools. Egypt in this age is the center of the world, a kingdom of impossible wealth built on the backs of the dispossessed. The Nile floods with perfect regularity, filling granaries that stretch beyond the horizon. Temples rise like mountains, their walls carved with images of gods who wear the heads of animals, Sobek the crocodile, Thoth the ibis, Horus the falcon. 10,000 gods for 10,000 needs, and all of them serve Pharaoh, who is himself divine. In the Hebrew quarters, mothers sing lullabies in languages they half remember, songs about a promised land their great-grandmothers described but none have seen. The children born here speak Egyptian as easily as Hebrew. They worship in secret, if at all. Why pray to the God of their fathers when the gods of Egypt are carved in stone and covered in gold? But something stirs in the collective memory, a stubborn refusal to disappear entirely. In whispered stories told by firelight, they remember a promise made to Abraham beneath foreign stars: your descendants will be as numerous as the sand, and they will inherit a land flowing with milk and honey. The promise seems absurd now, a fantasy told to children. And yet it refuses to die. The pressure builds slowly, like water seeping through stone. Pharaoh, paranoid about Hebrew fertility, orders the midwives to kill every male child born to Hebrew women. When the midwives refuse, claiming the Hebrew women give birth too quickly, he commands that every Hebrew son be thrown into the Nile. The river that gives life becomes a grave. And still Moses hesitates. Standing before the burning bush, he makes excuses. Who am I to go to Pharaoh? I am slow of speech. Send someone else. The voice from the fire grows impatient. Who made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf, seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? But Moses continues to resist, and something unprecedented happens. God becomes angry. Go, The voice commands, "I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. Aaron your brother shall be your prophet. Take in your hand this staff, with which you shall perform the signs." The bush blazes brighter. The ground trembles. Moses reaches for his staff, and when his fingers close around the wood, it writhes in his hand, a serpent, alive and hissing. What happens next will echo through millennia. Moses returns to Egypt, not as the uncertain shepherd who fled 40 years before, but as something new. A messenger. A liberator. A man who has seen the invisible God and lived. He stands before Pharaoh in the throne room of the most powerful empire on earth. The walls are lined with gold, the air thick with incense burned to a dozen different gods. Pharaoh sits on a throne carved from a single block of granite, the double crown of Upper and Lower Egypt upon his head. He is divinity incarnate, the son of Ra, the living Horus. And this stuttering old Hebrew dares to speak. "Thus says the Lord, the God of Israel, let my people go." In that moment, that impossible, defiant moment, monotheism is born. Not as philosophy, but as revolution. Not as theology, but as the demand for human dignity in the face of absolute power. Pharaoh laughs. "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice and let Israel go? I do not know the Lord, and moreover, I will not let Israel go." The contest begins, not between Moses and Pharaoh, but between two ways of seeing the divine. Egypt with its 10,000 gods, each confined to stone and ritual. Israel with its one God, invisible and everywhere, demanding not worship but justice. But here is what the songs do not tell you. The plagues that follow are not clean miracles. They are catastrophe that destroys the innocent along with the guilty. The Nile runs red, and Egyptian children drink blood. Frogs cover the land, then die in stinking heaps. Disease kills cattle. Boils cover human flesh. The sky rains fire. Liberation, it turns out, is not gentle. And when the angel of death passes over Egypt on the final night, taking every firstborn son, from Pharaoh's palace to the dungeon of the captive, even Moses must have wondered at the price of freedom. The God who demands justice also demands sacrifice. What follows is 40 years in the wilderness, not a journey that should have taken months, but a generation of wandering while the slave mentality dies out. At Mount Sinai, Moses climbs into cloud and fire to receive the law, not suggestions, but commandments carved in stone. "You shall have no other gods before me." The first and most radical statement: there is only one ultimate authority in the universe, and it is not Pharaoh. The implications ripple outward like stones thrown into still water. If there is only one God, then all humans are created in that God's image, slave and master alike. If God's law stands above human law, then no king rules by absolute right. If the covenant is with an entire people, not just their leaders, then every voice matters. This is how a scattered tribe becomes a nation, not through conquest, but through shared memory and shared law. They will carry these stories in their hearts through exile and return, through the rise and fall of kingdoms, through 2,000 years of diaspora. The burning bush becomes their banner, the invisible God their unshakable foundation. Moses never sees the promised land, only glimpses it from a mountain before he dies. But his defiance echoes still. Every prophet who speaks truth to power carries his staff. Every revolution that demands human dignity lights his fire. The bush burns still. In every place where someone looks at injustice and says no, in every moment when the invisible God of justice confronts the visible gods of power, it burns. Take off your sandals. The ground where you stand is holy. The fire still waits for those brave enough to see it.